The garage door was wide open. Morning light spilled across the pale concrete, illuminating the empty space where the Shelby GT500 had rested for 20 years. A soft breeze swept through, lifting a thin swirl of dust like silver smoke. I stood there, coffee still warm in my hand, but my chest felt cold. The car was gone. Only a dark oil stain remained, and the faint sound of wind brushing against the hanging tools. Bill, my husband, had been gone for 8 months. In 43 years of marriage, he might forget to turn off the porch light or leave the keys in the ignition, but he never left the garage door open. Not once. And now, the door stood open. The car vanished, as if someone had stolen not just the car, but his memory too. I stepped slowly into the garage. The air still carried the scent of gasoline and old paint. On the workbench lay his repair journal, open to a page written in his patient, steady hand, the kind that felt like breathing. Almost done. This summer, I'll teach Elaine to drive the Shelby, our first road trip after retirement. I closed the book. Under the thin layer of dust, I could still see tiny scratches, marks left by his hands. Proof of time, proof of love, proof of persistence. Then the sound of an engine broke the quiet. Through the window, I saw a familiar black BMW turning into the driveway. Lucas. My son. He stepped out, his posture hesitant, shoulders slightly slouched. From the passenger side, Sienna, his wife, emerged. Slim frame, straight hair, sunglasses hiding her eyes. They walked toward me together. Lucas avoided my gaze, staring instead at the grass beneath his shoes. And before he spoke, I already knew the answer. I sold it. 4 words, sharp as a knife. I looked at him, then at Sienna. Behind those dark lenses, her expression was calm, victorious, like someone who'd already won a game I didn't even know I was playing. I didn't speak for a while. In my head, I could still hear Bill's rough laugh, see his hand resting on our son's shoulder as he explained each detail of the engine. This car, Lucas, isn't for selling. It's a legacy, a promise, and now that promise was gone, erased with a single signature. Lucas mumbled something about a job opportunity in Paris, about a new beginning, but his voice felt far away, carried off by the wind. All I could see was Bill's face in those final hours, eyes still bright, whispering to me, "Keep the car, Elaine. It's the best part of me that's left in this world." But I hadn't kept it. They drove away and I was left alone in the echo of what used to be. The hum of the BMW faded down the street until all that remained was silence. I sat down on the old stool in the garage, the one Bill used when sanding the paint. I could almost feel the warmth of his hand still lingering in the wood. Opening the journal again, I reread the last line and smiled faintly, bitterly. Love is like a classic car. If you care for it, it will live forever. Outside, the Texas sun burned bright. Inside, I felt frozen. The rest of the day passed in a fog. I washed dishes, watered the plants, folded blankets. My hands trembled. Each time I looked out the window, the empty garage stared back, a wound that refused to close. That night, I sat alone on the sofa with all the lights off. No TV, no music, just the clock ticking, dry, relentless, marking every second like a heartbeat that no longer belonged to me. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. Just as I reached for the coffee pot, the phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. A rough male voice came through. "Mrs. Porter?" "Yes." "This is Nate Alvarez. owner of Alvarez Heritage Motors in Austin. I have your husband, Shelby." My pulse stopped. "What did you say?" "I bought it 3 days ago. Your son sold it to me." But before he passed, your husband left a message. He said if the car ever came back to my shop, I was to call you immediately. I gripped the receiver. "Why?" He said there's something inside the car. Something meant for you. I stood still, sunlight slipping through the blinds, painting thin golden lines across the table. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Where are you, Mr. Alvarez?" "East Austin, near the 290 industrial area." "I think you should come see for yourself. Mr. Bill wanted you to." I hung up, motionless for a long moment. In the quiet house, the clock kept ticking, steady, unbothered. Then I put on my jacket, slipped the keys into my pocket, and walked out the door. The morning air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth. I turned to look back at the garage, empty, silent, and whispered, as if Bill could still hear me, "I'm going, Bill. I'll see what you left behind." When I started the car, the sun was just rising over the trees. Highway 135 stretched ahead, straight, blinding, endless. I didn't know what I'd find, only that Bill had planned for this moment. For 8 months I thought I'd lost everything, my husband, my memories, my faith. But now I knew. Bill still had something left to say, a secret hidden inside that Shelby, and today I was going to find it. The road to Alvarez Heritage Motors stretched along the eastern industrial district of Austin, a long line of aging warehouses, peeling billboards, and the faint metallic scent of oil drifting in the wind. When I pulled up, the morning sun glinted off the glass facade of a 2-story building. The sign, Heritage Motors, shimmered in gold, reflected in the polished hood of a lineup of vintage cars out front. Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs, each one gleaming, like America's memories restored and waiting to be remembered. A tall man stood at the entrance. His hair was silver white, his shoulders broad, and his eyes had that familiar depth of someone who'd spent a lifetime breathing in gasoline and steel. As soon as I stepped out, he recognized me. "Mrs. Porter?" I nodded. He offered his hand. "I'm Nate Alvarez. Thank you for coming." His voice was low, rough, with the quiet tremor of someone carrying an old truth. I didn't waste words. "You have my husband, Shelby?" He nodded. "It's in the workshop. Please, follow me." The workshop was spotless, wide, bright, and silent except for the faint hum of the overhead lights. The air was thick with the scent of polish and cold steel. Under rows of hanging lamps, the cars sat in still perfection, sleeping giants of another era. At the far end, Nate stopped beside a covered shape. He drew in a slow breath and pulled the cover away. The deep burgundy shimmered instantly under the lights, smooth, rich, breathtaking. Bill's Shelby GT 500. I walked toward it slowly, afraid that even breathing too hard might shatter the fragile memory before me. The paint reflected my face, older, wearier, but still the same woman who once stood beside Bill the first time he lifted that hood. I placed my hand on the cool metal. Bill. The word barely left my lips. Nate stood silently beside me for a moment. Then, in a voice soft as confession, he said, 25 years ago, your husband saved me." I turned toward him. I was just a nobody mechanic in San Marcos, broke, divorced, the bank about to take my house. Bill came into the shop one day, just a random customer. We talked. I told him about my dream of opening a small showroom where people could come and remember their youth through old cars. He listened, quiet, thoughtful. Then he said, I believe in people who try to keep the past alive. A week later, he came back with a check, signed, no collateral, no conditions. That's how this place was built. I paid off the loan years ago, but the real debt, I could never repay. Nate looked down, his voice cracked slightly. If it weren't for Bill Porter, I'd have nothing today. My throat tightened. Bill had never told me. He'd helped people quietly, as naturally as breathing, never once expecting recognition. When your son brought the Shelby here, Nate continued, I knew immediately whose it was. Every car lover in Texas knows Bill Porter and his legendary GT500. He called it the Promise. A faint smile touched my lips through tears. The Promise. Nate nodded. Exactly. And I remembered my own promise, too. 2 years ago, Bill came to see me. He asked me to install a hidden compartment behind the dashboard. I asked what it was for. He just said, if I'm gone someday, Elaine will need to see this. My heart stopped. He told me, Nate said quietly, that if the Shelby ever returned here after his passing, I was to call you, immediately. He opened the driver's door and stepped aside. Please. I slid into the seat, the smell of old leather and faint gasoline wrapped around me, sharp, familiar, intimate. The steering wheel, polished wood, still held the marks of his hands. Next to the gear shift, a small scratch glinted, where his wedding ring used to brush the chrome. Nate gestured toward the dashboard. Behind the radio, he told me to keep it secret. I reached forward, fingers tracing along the edge until I found a tiny latch hidden beneath the panel. A soft click, and a small compartment popped open. Inside were 2 objects, a yellowed envelope and a small wooden box. The envelope came first. The handwriting on the front froze me in place. For Elaine. Bill's voice seemed to echo in the air, warm, steady, filled with love. I unfolded the letter. Elaine, if you're reading this, I've probably gone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't want you living in fear without proof. I've been investigating Sienna Vale for the past 18 months. Her real name is Lydia Hart. She's been married twice before. Both men lost everything after marrying her. Both cases ended the same way. She vanished, taking the money and a new identity. I know she'll do the same to Lucas, and eventually to you. Inside this envelope are copies of everything I've found. At First National Bank and Safety Deposit Box number 311, you'll find the Tech Core System stock certificates I've kept since 1995. Their value now should be enough for you to live safely for the rest of your life. If Lydia ever makes a move, contact Jordan Pike, my old friend, a private investigator here in Austin. He knows everything. And if you're reading this, it means I'm still protecting you in my own way. Bill. I couldn't hold back the tears. Every word felt like him, measured, loving, deliberate. Bill had seen the storm coming long before I did. And still, he built walls around me, in silence. I opened the wooden box. Inside lay a bank key and a small gold card engraved with 311. Under the lid, a note. Just 4 words in his neat handwriting. Preparation is love. I sat there for a long time. Everything in the car felt suspended. The air, the heat, even time itself. The faint tick of cooling metal, the whisper of wind through the doorframe, all distant, like echoes from another life. Nate waited quietly by the shop entrance. When I finally looked up, he said softly, "He trusted me to keep this secret. And now I'm passing it on to the only person he trusted more. You." I nodded, my voice barely steady. "Thank you, Nate. You didn't just keep Bill's promise. You saved me." He shook his head gently. "No, Mrs. Porter. Bill saved us all, even after he was gone." When I left the showroom, the Texas sun was high and merciless. The wind was warm and dry, brushing the last traces of tears from my cheeks. In my pocket, the letter and bank key felt impossibly heavy, like holding the weight of an entire life. Driving back, my thoughts kept circling around Lucas and Sienna's voice from the day before. It's just an old car. Number. It wasn't just a car, it was a map, leading me straight to the truth. That afternoon, I stopped at the little cafe Bill used to visit every Sunday morning. The same old wooden table still carried faint carvings. B+E. I opened my phone and typed a new contact, Jordan Pike. Sunlight reflected off the asphalt outside, blinding and bright, like a mirror held up to the past. And I knew then, this was only the beginning. Behind that letter, Bill had left me a mission, and I was going to finish it. The Shelby sat motionless under the workshop lights, its burgundy coat glinting like dried blood. I was still in the driver's seat, Bill's letter trembling lightly on my knees. But there was something else, a thick envelope, tucked just beneath the hidden compartment. When I pulled it free, the faint smell of old paper mixed with aged leather, sharp, earthy, like the scent of time itself. I wasn't ready for what Bill had left, but he had prepared me anyway. Inside were dozens of papers, photos, documents, and a small notebook. On the first page, in Bill's slanted handwriting, "If you're reading this, I was right. Stay calm and follow the order." I took a deep breath, throat tightening. The first photograph made my heart pound. A wedding picture, Sienna in a white dress. But the name on the marriage certificate wasn't Sienna Vale. It was Lydia Hart. I straightened up, pulse hammering. The next page showed another photo. Same face, same smile, different groom. This certificate listed Colin Murphy, Tampa, Florida. The weddings were less than 2 years apart. 2 husbands, 2 states, 1 woman. I thought back to that dinner. Sienna standing beside Lucas, her voice cool and rehearsed. "You should be happy for us." Back then I felt insulted. Now I realized she'd been practicing that line her whole life. I opened the notebook. The pages were thick, the ink smudged in places. The first line made my stomach twist. October 14th. Lydia asked detailed questions about the house deed, kept her eyes down, but hands were shaking. Must monitor. Another line. January 2, she accidentally dropped a brochure from a memory care center. Recording captured her voice. "Does Elaine forget things often?" I gripped the notebook tightly. Bill had known. He'd seen the signs long before I did. He hadn't said a word, because he knew the truth would break me. So he did what he always did. He observed. He prepared. He waited. Among the papers was a clipping from a local newspaper, yellowed with age. Elderly woman loses home after trusting memory care program. Suspect vanishes with assets. Bill's pen had underlined 3 words in red. Memory care program, and beside it, in his handwriting, formula. Create fear. Offer solution. Transfer assets. My chest ached. Suddenly everything aligned. Sienna hadn't been offering care. She'd been laying the groundwork to erase me, legally, financially, emotionally. Another photo slid loose, taken in a Phoenix parking lot. Sienna, or Lydia, wearing a cream coat and sunglasses, standing beside an older man with gray hair. Caption in Bill's handwriting. Harold James, married 2019. Lost garage after 3 weeks. Next page. A different photo. This one by a marina in Tampa. Same woman, new husband. Colin Murphy, lost inheritance, disappeared after 5 months. I bit my lip. 2 victims. Same pattern. Same ending. I whispered, barely audible. Bill, you saw it all. At the bottom of the envelope was a business card. Jordan Pike, Private Investigations, Austin, Texas. On the edge, Bill had written, "Contact only if Lydia tries to put you in memory care." The words hit like a bell ringing in my mind. I remembered seeing a soft tone from months earlier. "You need rest, Mom. Maybe a place that's quiet. Those stairs are dangerous for you." At the time, I'd thought it was kindness. Now I knew it was strategy. I closed the envelope, but my hands were still trembling. It felt like standing in the middle of a storm Bill had seen from miles away, and I was just now hearing the first thunder. I laid everything out on the workbench: wedding photos, clippings, notes, the investigator's card. Under the bright shop lights, each paper glowed faintly, but inside me, the shadows were gathering into something solid. "If she thinks I'll stay quiet like the others," I whispered, "she chose the wrong woman." Nate approached quietly. His voice was low, gravelly with emotion. "Are you all right, Mrs. Porter?" I looked up and managed a tired smile. "My husband once said that if you prepare well enough, you can save someone, even after you're gone. Maybe he just did." Nate said nothing for a moment, only nodded. "He was one of a kind, Mrs. Porter." I nodded back, and now it's my turn to finish what he started. I left the showroom with the envelope pressed to my chest. The Texas wind whipped across the lot, hot and metallic, carrying the scent of oil and sunlight. The sky to the west glowed red, the same color as the Shelby. In the rearview mirror, my face looked blurred, unfamiliar. But my eyes were different. They weren't tired anymore. They were focused. The eyes of someone who just found the map to the truth. That night, I spread everything out across the kitchen table. Wedding photos on one side, bank documents on the other, and at the center, Bill's notebook. I opened to a blank page and wrote at the top, "Truth has structure." Then I drew 4 columns beneath it. Identity, behavior pattern, financial trail, witnesses. I wasn't a grieving widow anymore. I was investigating a criminal. The kitchen light shimmered on the papers, making them look alive, as if each page were breathing. I poured myself a cup of black tea, set the phone beside the notebook. At the bottom of the pile sat Jordan Pike's card, the small letters staring back at me like destiny. But I didn't call him yet. Not until I verified the names Bill had left me: Harold James and Colin Murphy, the 2 men who'd loved her and lost everything. Before bed, I opened Bill's notebook one last time and wrote, "Preparation is love." And now it's my turn to prepare. Outside, the wind picked up. The oaks rustled in rhythm, like the distant hum of the Shelby's engine starting somewhere in the dark. Tomorrow, I'd call Harold, and once I heard his story, I'd finally know exactly who and what I was up against. Part 4. Calling the Past Victims. I didn't sleep that night. The wind scraped along the porch like careful fingers on wood. I lay there in the dark, hallway light casting a gold haze on the ceiling, while 2 names circled my mind over and over: Harold James, Colin Murphy. Bill had found them. Now it was my turn. In the morning, I brewed a strong pot of coffee. Before I sat at the kitchen table, I set out my phone, notebook, and pen. The only sound was the clock counting seconds. I dialed Harold James first. Phoenix area code. Each ring matched the thump of my heart. A low, rough voice answered. "Hello?" I drew a breath. "Mr. James, my name is Elaine Porter. I'm calling because I think we share something in common. A woman named Lydia Hart." Silence. Then a long, heavy exhale. "I'm guessing you lost something too." No, I said, my voice unsteady. I almost did, but I had a warning. From who? My husband, before he passed. Another long pause, then Harold spoke softly. You're luckier than I was. He told me his story. 4 years ago, Lydia appeared like a miracle. His mother had just died. He was selling the family garage to pay debts. Lydia said she'd studied asset management and wanted to help him reinvest and start over. Within 8 months, she moved in, reorganized everything, bills, bank accounts, the deed. One morning, the bank froze his accounts for ownership changes. By the time Harold arrived, Lydia was gone. She left a note, he said, his voice tight. It read, I just tidied up your memories. I said nothing. There wasn't a sentence in the world that could soothe that. I lost everything, Harold went on. The house, the garage, my reputation. The police said there wasn't enough evidence. If you have anything, if you truly have paperwork, hold on to it. She's smart. She knows how to turn feelings into signatures. That line chilled me. Before we hung up, he added one last thing. If you find her, tell her. I'm still alive. And I remember everything. I sat for a long time after the line went dead. Morning light cut through the blinds in thin gold stripes across my trembling hand. I wrote in the notebook, Pattern number 1, build trust, take over finances, transfer assets, disappear. Key lever, signatures. I looked to my contacts. The second name, Colin Murphy, Tampa, Florida. The second call started differently. Younger voice, but the weight of someone who hadn't slept in months. You said Lydia Hart? Yes, or Sienna Vale, depending on which name she's using. Good Lord, you're the third person this year asking about her. My breath caught. Third? A guy in Arizona, that must be Mr. James, and another man, southern accent, said he was a private investigator, Jordan. Something. My pulse jumped. Jordan Pike. Bill had reached him after all. I asked Colin to tell me everything. We met online, 2020. She said she'd worked in healthcare. My mother had just passed. I wanted to believe her. She moved in with me, brought paperwork, said she'd help invest for the future. A month later, Colin signed a financial partnership agreement. 3 months after that, the company account was gone, along with Lydia. When the police came, Colin said, they said the contract was legit. Different legal name, all documents real. The only thing I had left was my father's house, and now it's mortgaged. His voice cracked. I should have seen it. No one loves that fast unless they're racing the clock. My chest ached. These men weren't foolish. They were grieving, and they believed in good. Just like Lucas. Just like Bill once believed there was conscience in everyone. I asked if Colin still had any records. I do, but I'm tired. If you're serious about doing something, tell that investigator. I can't relive the nightmare. Thank you, Colin. I understand. And Mrs. Porter, I'm here. If you see her, don't trust the eyes. She knows how to make people forget their logic. After I hung up, I stepped onto the porch. The morning breeze smelled like wet grass and warm earth. I looked toward the empty garage. Now I understood why Bill hid a compartment behind the radio. He knew that one day I'd need proof. I opened the notebook and wrote, Pattern number 2. She targets the grieving, widows, dutiful sons, lonely men. Tactic, turn love into a tool. Then I added a line Bill had written once. Preparation is love. At noon, I called Jordan Pike. After 3 rings, a calm male voice answered. Pike Investigations. I introduced myself. A beat of silence, then his tone shifted, serious. You're Bill Porter's wife. Yes. He was one of a kind. He sent me part of a file and said, if I don't call back, it means Elaine will need you. I've been waiting almost a year. I bit my lip, my voice catching. He's gone. I know, and I'm sorry. Then Jordan said something that made my skin prickle. You're not the only one she's targeting. Lydia Hart is moving from state to state. This is bigger than Bill suspected. I'm seeing signs of money laundering, and there's a chance she's eyeing the TechCore Systems stock Bill left you. I froze. Come again? She knows about the stock, Mrs. Porter, and I don't think she'll stop with Lucas. I believe she's positioning to sell your house. The room tilted. I braced a hand against the table, forced myself steady. What do we do now? Jordan spoke slowly, each word deliberate. I need every document Bill left. We'll reconstruct the case and lock down Lydia's identity. But first, you need to act like you know nothing. Don't spook her. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I understand. And one more thing, Mrs. Porter. Yes? Bill told me that if anyone could be trusted more than me, it was you. Keep the rhythm he set. The structure he built is flawless. Don't break it. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet for a long time. The wind moved through the cypress outside, carrying a clean resin scent. On the table, Jordan's card caught the light. The game had truly begun. Bill had started it. Now it was mine to run. As evening fell, I wrote the day's final line in my notebook. Pattern confirmed. Victims alive. Contacted Jordan. Absolute secrecy. Underneath it, I drew a small red dot. Bill's private mark. A signal to myself. Don't forget the reason. That night, with the lights off, I listened to the insects outside and the wind brushing the eaves. The house settled into silence. On the table, the files lay open, and in the corner of a page, Bill's handwriting glowed faintly in the lamplight. If Lydia moves, don't be afraid. Once you see the truth, you'll know how to fight. I closed the notebook and whispered back, like he could still hear me. I see it now, Bill. Tomorrow I would meet Jordan Pike, and that would be the start of the counterattack. I didn't sleep that night. The wind scraped along the porch like careful fingers on wood. I lay there in the dark, hallway light casting a gold haze on the ceiling, while two names circled my mind over and over. Harold James, Colin Murphy. Bill had found them. Now it was my turn. In the morning, I brewed a strong pot of coffee. Before I sat at the kitchen table, I set out my phone, notebook, and pen. The only sound was the clock counting seconds. I dialed Harold James first. Phoenix area code. Each ring matched the thump of my heart. A low, rough voice answered. Hello? I drew a breath. Mr. James, my name is Elaine Porter. I'm calling because I think we share something in common. A woman named Lydia Hart. Silence, then a long, heavy exhale. I'm guessing you lost something, too. No, I said, my voice unsteady. I almost did, but I had a warning. From who? My husband, before he passed. Another long pause, then Harold spoke softly. You're luckier than I was. He told me his story. 4 years ago, Lydia appeared like a miracle. His mother had just died. He was selling the family garage to pay debts. Lydia said she'd studied asset management and wanted to help him reinvest and start over. Within 8 months, she moved in, reorganized everything, bills, bank accounts, the deed. One morning, the bank froze his accounts for ownership changes. By the time Harold arrived, Lydia was gone. She left a note, he said, his voice tight. It read, I just tidied up your memories. I said nothing. There wasn't a sentence in the world that could soothe that. I lost everything, Harold went on. The house, the garage, my reputation. The police said there wasn't enough evidence. If you have anything, if you truly have paperwork, hold on to it. She's smart. She knows how to turn feelings into signatures. That line chilled me. Before we hung up, he added one last thing. If you find her, Tell her I'm still alive, and I remember everything. I sat for a long time after the line went dead. Morning light cut through the blinds in thin gold stripes across my trembling hand. I wrote in the notebook, Pattern number 1, build trust, take over finances, transfer assets, disappear. Key lever, signatures. I looked to my contacts. The second name? Colin Murphy, Tampa, Florida. The second call started differently. Younger voice, but the weight of someone who hadn't slept in months. You said Lydia Hart? Yes, or Sienna Vale, depending on which name she's using. Good Lord. You're the third person this year asking about her. My breath caught. Third? A guy in Arizona. That must be Mr. James. And another man, southern accent, said he was a private investigator. Jordan something. My pulse jumped. Jordan Pike. Bill had reached him after all. I asked Colin to tell me everything. We met online, 2020. She said she'd worked in healthcare. My mother had just passed. I wanted to believe her. She moved in with me, brought paperwork, said she'd help invest for the future. A month later, Colin signed a financial partnership agreement. 3 months after that, the company account was gone, along with Lydia. When the police came, Colin said, they said the contract was legit, different legal name, all documents real. The only thing I had left was my father's house, and now it's mortgaged. His voice cracked. I should have seen it. No one loves that fast, unless they're racing the clock. My chest ached. These men weren't foolish. They were grieving, and they believed in good, just like Lucas. Just like Bill once believed there was conscience in everyone. I asked if Colin still had any records. I do, but I'm tired. If you're serious about doing something, tell that investigator. I can't relive the nightmare. Thank you, Colin. I understand. And Mrs. Porter, I'm here. If you see her, don't trust the eyes. She knows how to make people forget their logic. After I hung up, I stepped onto the porch. The morning breeze smelled like wet grass and warm earth. I looked toward the empty garage. Now I understood why Bill hid a compartment behind a radio. He knew that one day I'd need proof. I opened the notebook and wrote, Pattern number 2. She targets the grieving. Widows, dutiful sons, lonely men. Tactic, turn love into a tool. Then I added a line Bill had written once. Preparation is love. At noon, I called Jordan Pike. After 3 rings, a calm male voice answered. Pike Investigations. I introduced myself, a beat of silence. Then his tone shifted, serious. You're Bill Porter's wife. Yes. He was one of a kind. He sent me part of a file and said, if I don't call back, it means Elaine will need you. I've been waiting almost a year. I bit my lip, my voice catching. He's gone. I know, and I'm sorry. Then Jordan said something that made my skin prickle. You're not the only one she's targeting. Lydia Hart is moving from state to state. This is bigger than Bill suspected. I'm seeing signs of money laundering, and there's a chance she's eyeing the tech core system stock Bill left you. I froze. Come again? She knows about the stock, Mrs. Porter, and I don't think she'll stop with Lucas. I believe she's positioning to sell your house. The room tilted. I braced a hand against the table, forced myself steady. What do we do now? Jordan spoke slowly, each word deliberate. I need every document Bill left. We'll reconstruct the case and lock down Lydia's identity. But first, you need to act like you know nothing. Don't spook her. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I understand. And one more thing, Mrs. Porter. Yes? Bill told me that if anyone could be trusted more than me, it was you. Keep the rhythm, he said. The structure he built is flawless. Don't break it. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet for a long time. The wind moved through the cypress outside, carrying a clean resin scent. On the table, Jordan's card caught the light. The game had truly begun. Bill had started it. Now, it was mine to run. As evening fell, I wrote the day's final line in my notebook. Pattern confirmed. Victims alive. Contacted Jordan. Absolute secrecy. Underneath it, I drew a small red dot, Bill's private mark. A signal to myself, don't forget the reason. That night, with the lights off, I listened to the insects outside and the wind brushing the eaves. The house settled into silence. On the table, the files lay open, and in the corner of a page, Bill's handwriting glowed faintly in the lamplight. If Lydia moves, don't be afraid. Once you see the truth, you'll know how to fight. I closed the notebook and whispered back like he could still hear me. I see it now, Bill. Tomorrow, I would meet Jordan Pike, and that would be the start of the counterattack. Morning settled over Austin under a thin veil of fog. The road to First National Bank shimmered silver in the pale light, as if the whole city were holding its breath, waiting for something to be uncovered. In my bag were the bank key marked number 311 and Bill's letter, folded neatly inside an envelope. I couldn't remember the last time my hands shook from fear. Maybe the day I signed his death certificate. But this time, the trembling came from something else. The truth was close. Inside the bank, the air was cool and spotless. A young teller behind the counter smiled politely. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" I placed the small key on the counter. "Safe deposit box number 311. It's under the name Bill Porter. I'm the beneficiary." She typed a few things into the computer, her eyes shifting from the screen to me, then nodded. "Everything checks out, Mrs. Porter. Please come with me." We passed through 2 layers of steel doors and into the vault, rows of boxes stretched out like sealed memories waiting for permission to breathe again. The clerk inserted her master key. I turned mine. A soft click echoed, sharp, final, like the sound of a heartbeat. The door opened. Inside sat a long metal box wrapped in brown paper, tied neatly with a string, and a thin envelope bearing my name. I sat at the small table, untied the knot, and peeled away the paper. Beneath it were several investment documents and 2 sealed envelopes. The first one read, "Elaine, emergency use." I opened it carefully. Inside were stock certificates from TechCore Systems, totaling 4,800 shares, dated 1995. Each sheet carried Bill's name, the notation TCS-A, and a handwritten note along the edge. Hold until the value of technology equals the value of humanity. A soft laugh escaped me, though tears blurred my eyes. Bill always had his strange, poetic logic, but now I understood. He had kept these stocks not as wealth, but as protection. I pulled out my phone and searched the ticker. Current price, $75 per share. Total value, over $350,000. Enough to ensure I'd never be forced to sell my home again. The second envelope was thicker. Across the front, Operation Leverage. My heart clenched. That word, leverage, was pure Bill. He never fought with anger. He built structures and let truth do the fighting. Inside was a printed financial plan and a short handwritten note. "Elaine, by the time you read this, they may try to take the house or the stocks. Remember, strength isn't in the money itself, but in knowing who holds the evidence. If Lucas gets caught in the middle, don't blame him. He's being controlled. Jordan will help you file ownership verification and transfer the assets into the EP trust. Everything is signed. You only need to agree." My hands trembled again. Bill had prepared this before his illness worsened. He'd created a trust to guard what was left of our life and our sons. I called Jordan Pike. "I'm guessing you're at the bank," he said before I could speak. "I am," I replied softly, "and I'm looking at both a treasure and a plan." "Stay put," he said. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. When Jordan arrived, he wore a gray coat and carried a black briefcase. His eyes were sharp, but kind. I handed him the second envelope. He skimmed it quickly, then looked up. He left everything in order, Jordan said. Even predicted Sienna's next move. What does she want with these stocks? I asked. Money, but not just money, he said. These shares link to TechCore's pending acquisition. If she gains control, she could claim a false inheritance and liquidate them under your name. I felt the pulse in my wrist hammering. So what do we do? First, he said, we transfer all assets into the EP trust. Then I'll file an emergency motion with the court to freeze any transactions made under a fraudulent signature. But we'll need leverage, psychological leverage. She has to think you're still fragile, still trusting. I nodded. Play the weak one. Lure the predator. We signed several documents. When the bank officer notarized my signature, my hand still shook. Not from fear this time, but from the weight of clarity. As the safe was locked again, Jordan leaned closer. Bill was right, he murmured. He planned this battle like a soldier. Now it's your turn. As I walked out of the bank, I caught my reflection in the glass. An older woman, silver hair, standing tall. No longer the widow crying in the dark. A strategist, holding the lever of her own life. That afternoon, Jordan and I sat at a small cafe off Congress Avenue. He opened his laptop, showing me the architecture of Bill's financial design. Bill invested in TechCore during its first round in 1995, he explained. When it went public, the stock multiplied. He even named the trading account Shelby Holdings. I smiled faintly. He loved that car more than himself. Jordan shook his head. No, he loved what it represented, freedom. And right now, that's what he's giving you. Before we parted, he handed me another envelope. This is a copy of the temporary asset freeze order. I'll file it first thing tomorrow. Your job is simple. Keep living normally. Don't let Sienna suspect a thing. I nodded. She'll come to me soon enough. And when she does, we'll be ready. Exactly, he said. Driving home, I watched Austin bathe in the orange light of sunset. The surface of the lake shimmered red, the same color as the Shelby. I thought of Bill. Every move he'd made, every quiet plan, was still guiding me. You didn't just leave me money, Bill, I whispered. You left me a structure. And I'm finally learning how to stand inside it. That night, I organized everything into a locked cabinet. One folder for TechCore assets, one for Lydia/Sienna documentation, and in the center, Bill's notebook. On the final page, I wrote, June 27th, EP Trust activated. No more fear. When I closed the book, rain began tapping against the window. The droplets slid down the glass like faded memories. Quiet. Passing. Gone. Tomorrow I would play the part. I'd smile, nod, pretend to be the gentle mother she believed she could manipulate. But only Bill and I knew the truth. The lever had already been pulled. When they came back from Paris, Austin was already deep in summer. The sunlight poured gold through the old oak trees, and Round Rock felt unnaturally quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. I heard the car stop at the gate, the engine cutting off, doors shutting, and then her voice, sweet as syrup and twice as artificial. Elaine! We're back! I stood in the kitchen drying the last plate. Water dripped slowly into the sink, rhythmic, steady. I didn't need to look outside to know they were smiling. That light, weightless kind of smile people wear after spending money that wasn't theirs. They entered the house like they still owned it. Lucas carried the luggage, tanned, tired, eyes avoiding mine. Sienna was glowing, White dress, designer sunglasses, the faint scent of Paris perfume mixed with last night's Texas rain. I said only one thing. Welcome home. Dinner's ready. On the table sat pot roast, fresh bread, and Bill's favorite red wine. It wasn't a welcome, it was a test. All through dinner, I kept my voice calm, my movements measured. Only the soft sound of silverware tapping against plates broke the silence. And Sienna's voice, painting Paris in strokes of champagne and luxury. She described boat parties on the Seine, boutiques in Le Marais, rooftop bars overlooking Montmartre. Lucas nodded, distracted, his hand hovering over his glass but never drinking. I watched them, not as a mother but as a witness gathering data. Halfway through the meal, Sienna tilted her head, her tone wrapped in sweetness. You should come to Paris sometime, Elaine. You'd love it there. Maybe even rest a little. The word rest came out slow, deliberate, a baited hook. I smiled gently. I still garden every morning, Sienna. Rest is something I have plenty of. Her lips curved, but her eyes stayed still behind the glasses. I just meant single-story homes are much safer for older people. These stairs could be risky, don't you think? Lucas looked up, about to speak, then stopped. I added a piece of meat to his plate. Your father reinforced that railing himself, I said softly. It could withstand a storm. The air froze. Then Sienna gave a small laugh. Of course. I was only thinking of your safety. I let the silence stretch. That was her first move, planting the idea in Lucas's head that I was fragile. I wanted to see how far she'd go. As dessert neared, she shifted gears, softer now, more sympathetic. Elaine, you know Lucas has been under pressure. His work isn't stable yet. I just want things to be easier for us. I nodded, folding my napkin. Ease can be dangerous when it's bought the wrong way. For a moment she faltered. Then I added, Bill used to say, anything gained too fast leaves just as fast. Lucas set his glass down. Mom, please. His voice was low, tired, guilty. After dinner, Sienna offered to wash the dishes. I agreed but stayed nearby, watching. She didn't really wash. She rearranged. Opened drawers, shifted stacks, her gaze sweeping the kitchen like a map maker. And when she thought I wasn't looking, her eyes flicked toward Bill's study. I understood. She was searching for the house papers. I haven't touched that room since Bill passed, I said quietly. I'm not ready yet. Her smile was sugar over glass. I understand, but sometimes clearing the past is the best way to move forward. The sentence hit the tile floor like broken china. Not, I replied softly, if the past is still protecting the present. When they left, the sky had already turned indigo. Lucas gave me a brief hug. Sienna murmured, "Thank you for dinner," in that honeyed tone only liars can perfect. I stood by the window as their taillights disappeared behind the trees. The dish towel in my hand was damp and cold. I set it down, opened the third drawer, and pulled out the small recorder Jordan had given me that morning. I pressed stop. Every word, rest, stairs, single-story house, was captured clearly. I sent the file to Jordan with a short message. Phase 1, initiated. She's building the narrative of cognitive decline. Less than 2 minutes later, his reply came. Good. Logged. Stay in character. When she brings up the deed, stall her. I'll handle the rest. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the backyard on the wooden chair Bill built years ago, listening to the insects hum in the dark. On the table beside me lay his notebook. I drew a red line across a new page and wrote, "First day after Paris. Psychological manipulation begins." Then I reread Bill's old words, underlined in his handwriting. When deceit begins with pity, Truth ends with ice. For the first time, I truly understood what he meant. 2 days later, Sienna called. Her voice was bright, cheerful, too cheerful. "Elaine, I think you should schedule a health checkup. Lucas says you've been forgetting small things, like your keys." I smiled into the receiver. That's funny. I remember exactly who last had the garage keys. Silence, then a quick, airy laugh. "Oh, I'm just worried, that's all. If you ever need anything, I'm always happy to help." "Thank you," I said. "And if you ever need help, I can lend a hand. Cleaning up a few messes." No reply, just the sound of a line disconnecting. I called Jordan right after. "Good," he said. "Keep the upper hand. Don't confront her. Let her expose herself." He emailed me a new file, an investigative summary. Vanessa Cortland, alias. Same behavior in Arizona and Florida. And below that, a note from Bill dated last year. She'll come back. And this time, let her touch the fire. That evening, I returned to the garage. The Shelby sat under the dim light, burgundy paint glowing like embers. I opened the driver's door and sat inside. The leather creaked softly, and the familiar smell filled the air. I ran my hand along the steering wheel and whispered, "Bill, don't worry. I'm doing it right." Thunder rolled in the distance. Rain was coming. Before bed, I added another line to the journal. Day 3 after Paris. Soft counterattack begins. Maintain weakness. Collect evidence. I attached the audio file of Sienna's voice to the page. "You should rest. The stairs are dangerous. A one-story house would be better." Listening again, I could almost see her real face forming beneath every word. I closed the notebook and exhaled slowly. Tomorrow, I'd invite them to dinner again. And this time, my frail little act would make them relax, just enough to show me what they were truly planning. Phase 2 would begin then. That's when I'd start drawing the fox out of her den. 3 days after that dinner, Sienna disappeared from my sight. No texts, no calls. Only one strange thing. A bank alert for unusual activity. I opened the email. 3 withdrawals totaling $12,400 from an account under Lucas Porter. All within the same 45 minutes, 8:15 to 9 a.m. Memo line, authorized by joint holder. I sat still. Bill had opened that account for Lucas years ago. After the wedding, Sienna was added as a joint signatory. Now she was cashing out the spoils. I called Jordan immediately. He picked up on the second ring. "I'm guessing you just saw the alert." 3 withdrawals, I said. "And more," he replied. "I'm tracking their credit activity. She just booked a flight." "To where?" "Mexico City. One way, 48 hours from now." My grip tightened around the phone. "So this is the end game." "Exactly. Phase 4, extraction." Jordan kept his voice calm, but I could hear urgency underneath. "You need to tell Lucas, but let him verify it himself. If you confront her outright, she'll spin it and accuse you of lying. He has to see it." He was right. In every case before, Lydia Hart won because the victim trusted her more than they trusted reality. That afternoon, I called Lucas. "Dinner tonight?" I asked. "I made your favorite." His voice was tired. "Okay. Sienna's meeting a friend. I'm free." I hung up, heavy in my chest. I set the table like it was any other night, but under the tablecloth I placed a thick envelope. Inside, the wedding photo of Lydia with Colin Murphy, a copy of the Florida marriage certificate, and a note in Bill's handwriting. "If you're reading this, check the dates, then ask your wife. I wasn't going to start a fight. I wanted a mirror, one that showed him the right face." Lucas arrived at 7. He looked different, shoulders slumped, hair unkempt, eyes worn thin. "You made all this?" You need food, I said, and clarity. He gave a faint smile. You always worry. We ate mostly in silence, the soft tap of fork against plate, the ceiling fan turning lazy circles. When he set his fork down, I slid the envelope toward him. Your father left this for you, I said. He said to open it only if something felt off. He frowned. What is it? Look. He opened it. I watched his face shift, curiosity, confusion, shock. A wedding photo, Lydia in white, smiling beside a gray-haired man. Then the certificate, State of Florida, bride, Lydia Hart. His voice came out ragged. This is Sienna's real name. He shot to his feet. No, Mom, don't start this again. I stayed steady, the way Bill had in the ICU for 40 years. You don't have to believe me, I said softly. Believe the documents. Verify them. His hands shook as he clutched the envelope. I will. And if this is fake, you owe her an apology. And if it's real? He didn't answer. I looked at him and said gently, then your father died trying to protect you from the person you love. The air hardened. In his eyes, anger began to drain, replaced by fear. He left with the envelope. I didn't stop him. When the door closed, I texted Jordan. He took the evidence. Let the truth speak. Jordan replied, Team is in place. If she pulls more cash, we'll know. Keep your phone on. Near midnight, I heard a car in the driveway. Lucas rushed in, pale, phone in hand. I called Florida, he said, voice shaking. The man in the photo confirmed it. He married a woman named Lydia Hart. Same date, same face. She disappeared and took his father's money. I clenched my fingers. Do you believe me now? He nodded, tears spilling. Dad tried to warn me, and I wouldn't listen. I set my hand on his shoulder. It's all right, Lucas. The truth still counts, even when it comes late. He swallowed. She's asleep at our house. We sat there with the clock ticking in the living room. At 12:30, Jordan called. Mrs. Porter, Lydia's car just pinged at the airport Marriott. She booked a room, paid cash. I think she's moving her flight up. I met Lucas's eyes. Our turn. Jordan 22, 2 a.m. We met Jordan in a lot near the airport. He unfolded a map, voice low. We've looped in Detective Rivera at Austin PD. Lydia has outstanding warrants in Arizona and Florida. If we supply the new evidence, they'll have grounds to hold her. Lucas balled his fists. I'll give a full statement. Credit cards, accounts, every signature, everything. Good, Jordan said, but we need a live catch. She flies in the morning. We have to be in position before 5. We waited in the car for the sky to lighten. Street lamps flickered against the windshield. 3 faces, each wearing a different weight. Me with the past, Lucas with remorse, Jordan with duty. Just before 5, Jordan got a text. She's checked out, heading to the terminal. We pulled out and followed from a distance. In the back seat, Lucas clutched the envelope, his lips pressed tight. I laid my hand over his. You're not alone, I said. Your father's here with us. I have done. At Austin Bergstrom, dawn was just breaking. I spotted her. Beige coat, sunglasses, rolling suitcase. She moved straight for the counter, calm, confident, no glance over the shoulder. Jordan signaled the plainclothes officers. 2 of them closed in. We watched from several yards away. Everything unfolded in slow motion. A badge flashed. A few words exchanged. She turned and smiled. But when she heard the name Lydia Hart, the smile vanished. She ran. The suitcase tumbled. Her heels slipped on the polished floor. 2 officers chased her. Police! Stop! Heads turned. Phones lifted. Chaos bloomed in seconds. They brought her down gently but firmly. Cuffs clicked. She thrashed and yelled, "You have no right! I'm Sienna Vale!" Lucas froze beside me. I squeezed his hand. They opened her suitcase right there. Nearly $50,000 cash, a fake passport, an external hard drive with financial files. Jordan leaned in and whispered, "Enough for federal charges." As they led her away, she looked up at us, eyes full of hate and a hint of panic. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I did it better than anyone." I didn't respond. I only turned to Lucas and said, just loud enough for him to hear, "The truth has structure." On the drive home, Lucas said nothing. When the car rolled to a stop in the driveway, he stared ahead and whispered, "Mom, I don't know how to make this right." "You don't have to pay for it," I said. "You have to learn from it. Your father believed that when a man owns his mistakes, he starts becoming a man again." He nodded, tears falling silently. That night I sat at the kitchen table and wrote in the journal. Day 5. Manipulation phase ended. Exposure complete. Legal phase begins. I closed the notebook and looked up at Bill's photo on the wall. His smile was the same as it had been on a quiet night long ago when he told me the line I only now fully understood. "Don't fight with anger, Elaine. Fight with structure." And it was that structure, love, reason, and evidence that saved my family. The videos hit the internet within minutes. A man had filmed the moment Sienna Lydia Hart, was pinned to the polished tile floor of Austin's International Terminal. Her suitcase had burst open, spilling rubber-banded stacks of cash and a passport under a different name. The clip's title read, "Woman Struggles as She's Arrested at Austin Airport." Under the fluorescent lights, everything looked cold, clinical. Every lie she told was now visible in high definition. Out in the parking lot, the air smelled faintly of jet fuel. Lucas leaned against the car, gripping the envelope of evidence like a life raft in a flood. Jordan's voice came through the phone, low but firm. "Head straight to the precinct. Detective Rivera's waiting. They'll need statements and chain of custody for the hard drive." We drove off just as the sun rose over the city. The white lines of the highway blurred beneath us like film reels spinning too fast. In the rearview mirror, Lucas's eyes were red, swollen. I placed my hand on his. Just one, quiet touch. "You're not alone anymore." The interview room at Austin PD was bright and cold. Gray walls, metal table, a plastic jug of water. Detective Rivera walked in, wearing a light blue shirt, tie loosened, eyes steady. The kind of calm you only learn from years of night shifts. He set down the recorder, checked the time, and began. There was something in his precision that reminded me of the hospital years, Bill's years, where discipline was love and order was survival. I told him everything. The garage door open, the missing Shelby, Bill's letter, the hidden compartment behind the radio, the files on Lydia, the calls with Harold and Colin, safe deposit box number 311, the TechCore shares, the EP Trust transfer, the Paris dinner, Sienna's memory loss narrative. Each piece Jordan laid out on the table. Documents, audio recordings, screenshots, all time-stamped. The truth had structure, and today that structure sat neatly on cold steel. Then Lucas spoke. His voice cracked in places, but his words were clear. "She added her name to my account. I never checked. I believed her." Rivera nodded, jotting notes, expression neutral. "Credit cards in your name, did you sign for them? No. Do you have proof she held the cards?" Lucas handed over photos, statements. Jordan added metadata logs from the bank's emails. Each puzzle piece clicked into place, like the tumblers of a lock. An officer brought in the external hard drive, sealed with a fresh tag. Rivera read the serial number, the timestamp, and the names of everyone who'd handled it. I couldn't help but smile. Bill would have loved this moment. Every line straight, every rule followed, every fact in its rightful column. By afternoon, the district attorney joined us briefly. She asked few questions, mostly confirming permission to mirror the EP trust files to affirm my legal ownership of the TechCorp portfolio. Jordan leaned over and whispered, "This is the back door locking shut." I understood. From now on, no one could touch what Bill left behind. In the waiting room, Rivera returned with news. Arizona and Florida had confirmed active warrants, identity theft, financial fraud. Federal involvement's likely, he said. False passport and cross-state movement. I nodded. Words like warrant, interstate, federal. They sounded like doors slamming one by one. Later that day, Harold and Colin appeared on a video call Jordan arranged. Two tired faces, lined by years of loss. They gave brief statements for the record. Same method, same charm, same ending. When they finished, Harold said quietly, "Thank you. Maybe now I can sleep without the nightmares." Colin added, "Maybe tomorrow I'll open my garage door again." When the call ended, I sat in silence and let my heart beat slow. The arraignment was the next morning. Lydia wore an orange jumpsuit, hair pulled back, face pale under courtroom light. The public defender beside her spoke in monotone. The prosecutor read the charges: identity theft, financial fraud, falsified documents, flight risk. Evidence: cash, one-way ticket, fake passport, external drive, multi-state victims. The defense requested conditional bail. The prosecutor objected. The judge flipped through the file, sighed, and said evenly, "Bail denied. Defendant to remain in custody until trial. No contact with witnesses." The gavel dropped thunk, a sound small but absolute. For a split second, Lydia turned her head. Her eyes found mine. That twisted half-smile, part defiance, part collapse, flickered and died. I didn't look away. I wanted her to see what peace looked like. The next week passed in paperwork. Declarations, authorizations, data copies. The EP trust finalized. The bank reversed the fraudulent credit lines. One by one, the knots Lydia tied unraveled by patience, not rage. Bill once wrote, "Silence doesn't feed justice." And I heard him in every signature I made. A few days later, Rivera called. "There's a plea deal," he said. "The prosecutor's offering a combined sentence, 10 to 15 years federal, if she pleads guilty and names the money handlers." I stayed quiet. Justice isn't just truth and punishment, it's also prevention, stopping the next Lydia before she starts. 2 days later, she accepted. 12 years federal. No early parole due to prior flight history. The judge read the verdict in a voice neither harsh nor soft, only lawful. Lydia stood still, hands clasped, lips drained of color. As the cuffs clicked shut, she turned slightly, as if to speak, but didn't. Then she was gone. Lucas exhaled, shaky and raw, like a diver surfacing for air. I pulled him close for one brief, steadying hug. Then I let him stand on his own. Down the hall, the DA approached us. "Your credit debts will be cleared. We'll assist with the annulment paperwork. Civil restitution claims are already underway for the other victims." Jordan thanked her. I just nodded. No victory tastes sweet when it rises from ash, but at least the fire was out. That night, the house felt unnaturally calm. I brewed black tea and opened the kitchen window. The Texas air drifted in damp earth, pine resin, a trace of gasoline. On the table lay Bill's notebook, open to the last page. When you can see the structure, you'll know where to place the next brick. I wrote beneath it, "Done." 12 years, no anger left, only boundaries. My phone buzzed. A text from Jordan. "Nate wants to see you tomorrow. Something about the Shelby." I leaned back in my chair, a small smile forming. That car, the symbol of patience and love, was calling us home. Morning came clear and clean. I drove along Congress Avenue, the lake glinting under white clouds. At the Heritage Motors shop, Nate stood by the door, oil-stained hands, soft smile. "Mrs. Porter," he said, voice rough with emotion. I kept my promise to Bill. "She's yours again." I froze. "You mean—" I bought her to keep her safe, from people who never understood her worth. But now, her worth is back with her family. He placed the keys in my hand, the metal warm from his palm. I couldn't speak. The air smelled of paint and steel. There she was, the burgundy Shelby, gleaming under the sun. Flawless, patient, waiting. I touched the mirror and my reflection looked back. Older, steadier, clear. "Bill would be proud," Nate whispered. "I know," I said, voice trembling. On the drive home, Lucas held his father's journal like a lantern through the tunnel. The engine hummed low and steady, a heartbeat reborn. When the Shelby rolled back into the garage, the dark oil stain sat exactly where it always had. The door lowered with a soft click. Silence. Full, perfect. Lucas placed his hand on the hood. "I want to learn everything," he said. I opened the first folded page of Bill's notes. "Start with the oil." He nodded, and we would. That evening, the kitchen lights glowed warm again. I reheated the pot roast, poured 2 cups of tea. No heels clicking on tile, no perfume, no voice sharp as sugar. Only the spoon against the pot and the wind through the window. From the doorway, I looked toward the garage. The Shelby rested there quiet, whole, honest. A promise kept. And inside me, one truth settled like the evening air. Preparation is love. Bill prepared, and I carried it through. Tomorrow we'll open the hood, oil the bolts, read every line of Bill's notes. And maybe the next day I'll drive her, just once around Round Rock. Not fast, not fleeing, just steady. Because freedom isn't speed, it's control of the wheel. I closed the curtains, shut the notebook, turned off the light. And for the first time in months, I didn't go to bed to escape the night, but to welcome the morning that was finally mine. Part 9. The Shelby Returns and the Ritual of Rebirth. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, painting a thin golden line across the wooden table. I sat with my cup of tea, listening to the steady tick of the clock. In the garage, the Shelby GT500 waited, burgundy gleaming in the kind of light Bill used to call resurrection light. Lucas woke earlier than usual. He came down the stairs, holding his father's worn notebook. He didn't need to say a word. I knew where he wanted to go. I handed him the old keychain, the metal ring slightly rusted, edges worn smooth by time. When the garage door lifted, the air filled with the smell of iron, oil, and memory. Lucas stood still for a few seconds, then opened the notebook and read the first line Bill had written. "Start with the oil." He smiled softly. Dad always started with the simplest things. I replied, because simple things are the hardest to keep. We opened the hood. I ran my fingers carefully along the metal pipes, afraid to disturb the past. In the light, drops of oil shimmered like stars. Lucas replaced the filters, wiped every surface clean. Each metallic click felt like a heartbeat learning its rhythm again. When he poured the last can of oil, I sat on the wooden stool by the wall and opened Bill's notebook one more time. On the final page, his handwriting curves steady and certain. If you've reached this page, it means you won, not by force, but by reason. Now drive, Elaine. This car isn't a symbol of me, but of you, because you're the one who kept the structure. I read it aloud, my voice cracking. Lucas turned toward me, eyes wet. Mom, he knew all along, didn't he? I nodded. Your father always stayed one step ahead. He just waited for you to see it. We checked the belts, the battery, the fuel line. When everything was ready, Lucas opened the driver's door and handed me the keys. Start her up, Mom. I hesitated. You should do it. He shook his head. No. He wrote drive. He meant you. I took a deep breath and turned the key. The engine coughed, then roared to life. Rough at first, then steady, deep, alive. It sounded like the breath of someone waking from a long sleep. Lucas smiled. She's alive again. I said nothing. I just let the sound speak, the sound of patience, time, and justice. We drove slowly around Round Rock. The same streets, the same trees, but everything felt brighter. People turned their heads as we passed. A few waved. Lucas said quietly, I never thought this day would come. Any day can be that day, I told him, if you prepare for it. We stopped by the small lake where Bill used to fish. The water shimmered under the sun, perfectly still. I stepped out and opened the trunk. Inside sat a small tin box, Bill's ashes. I had kept it for 8 months, unable to let go. Lucas stood beside me in silence. I opened the lid. The wind caught the ashes, carrying them over the bright water. A thin mist rose, then disappeared. I whispered, You're home now, Bill. And so was the Shelby. On the way back, Lucas drove. Outside, the Texas field stretched golden to the horizon. In my pocket, I carried Bill's last letter, edges soft, folds worn thin with time. One line had puzzled me for months. Preparation is love. Now I understood. He hadn't just prepared assets, documents, or strategies. He'd prepared a way out of fear. When he died, I thought I'd lost everything, but really, he'd left me a map back to myself. That afternoon, Jordan stopped by. He stood at the garage door, smiling at the car. Looks just like it did 20 years ago, he said. It's not just a car anymore, I told him. It's a reminder. A reminder of what? That truth never dies. It just waits until there's enough evidence to be heard. Jordan nodded and handed me a slim envelope. Keep this. The ownership transfer is complete. And I spoke with the other victims. They want to start a fund with you to help seniors targeted by financial scams. I blinked in surprise. They do? They said because of you, they learned that justice isn't just punishment, it's restoration. I paused, then said softly, Call it the Shelby Foundation. Jordan smiled. Perfect name, and perfectly right. That night, I wrote in my journal, Day 180 after Bill. The Shelby is home. The structure is closed, but not finished. Truth has structure. Dignity matters more than money. Preparation is love. I set the notebook on the table and looked up. The garage light glowed against the car's polished surface, and for a moment, the reflection on the wall looked like a man standing there, hands in pockets, smiling. I didn't look away. I just said quietly, I've done my part, Bill. A month later, I was invited to speak at the town council seminar on financial safety for seniors. I shared my story, not as tragedy, but as proof that you can take your life back if you have evidence and persistence. When I finished, a woman about my age stood up and asked, Did you ever feel it was too late to start over? I smiled. I was 68 when I began again, and the best things in my life came after that. It's never too late, not if you still hold the truth. The room went silent. Then someone clapped, and then another, until the whole room filled with warm applause, like spring finally arriving. That night, I came home to the garage lights still glowing. I sat in the chair beside the Shelby, inhaling the scent of leather and machine oil. It was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I rested my hand on the steering wheel and whispered, "Thank you, Bill. Thank you for teaching me that real love isn't about holding on. It's about preparing, so the ones you love never fall." Then I turned to the small camera Jordan had installed months ago, still sitting on the workbench. I pressed record. My voice was calm. If you're hearing this, remember, sometimes what's lost isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to be strong enough to come back for it. Tell your story. Truth has structure, and the best chapter of your life can begin at any age. If my story touched you, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe, because every chapter here reminds us that dignity matters more than money, and that you are never too late to begin again.